Back at it again. We have another blind react to a FedEx Ground CDL driver, and this is Smooth Operator Trucking. Haven't watched his stuff, but I am going to review a video he did on 5 pros and cons of is FedEx Ground worth it? So relevant, and I imagine that he's going to have a significant amount of insight when it comes to not just being a driver but also the operations. And so let's take a look. Let's see what Smooth Operator has for us today.
FedEx Ground, and we're getting started right now. Pro, small fleet, fill with big carrier stability.
Small independent contractors, but still running a brand. That is a insane, huge bonus for contractors specifically. That's why people buy into these businesses, but for drivers as well. That logo on the side of the truck, it still means something different than if you were just driving a 53-foot and a truck with some random name.
And support. For example, if something's wrong with the truck or I need some time off, I can just call my fleet manager or my fleet owner.
Local access.
FedEx Ground controls
yeah,
fleet owners' trucks.
They do Big Brother.
For example,
65 miles an hour.
Ground contractor, you have to govern your truck at 65 miles an hour.
Yup.
You have to have a camera system installed in the truck that looks in the truck and outside the truck. And whenever they tell you that you need to get new tires or an inspection or wash the truck, you have to do it.
He gets it, right? He knows that it's FedEx's fault, right? We put that on them. Why? Driver asks you, why did this truck have to be 65 miles an hour? In Texas, we can go 130 in between these towns, and it's legal. And yes, I get it, but unfortunately, it's not my call. It's big bag FedEx, man. They're making us do it. Look, it's safety. Reports have shown that trucks going slower, if they do get into an accident, there's going to be less damage, less catastrophic death-related issues. But at the end of the day, it's not my call. Look, man, these cameras, I don't want to put the cameras in the truck. I'm not watching you, but you know what? Big Brother makes me do it. So he gets it though. So he knows it's FedEx. It's not his contractor. Drop and hook, no touch freight.
I go to Jacksonville and I know what I'm going to be doing. I know the route. It's a straight shot, and there are no deadhead miles, which is important if you think about becoming a contractor at FedEx Ground. From what I've been told,
he gets it.
$1.30, $1.40. I don't know if that's with or without fuel surcharge.
Damn, he gets it. Consistency, my God.
Makes a big difference.
These drivers, dude, they know the game. They know what we're doing.
It says 285 miles. It's 285 miles. That's what you get paid for, and that's what it normally is within 1 to 2 miles. Con, mostly night driving. Most people don't like driving at night, but if night driving does not bother you, then FedEx Ground might be the place for you. Now, there are exceptions to that. But normally, most of it consists of night driving.
I don't know. He's going to Jacksonville. I don't know where he's coming out of, but I assume he's coming out of a smaller station, only a couple of contractors in it, that's running nights, where there's no mainline daytime runs. If he in that market were to go out of Savannah, Atlanta, Marietta, Ocala, even Orlando will do Jacksonville runs, he would see a lot of daytime mainline really attractive runs. And so that's the difference for contractors, the runs you own, and drivers, where you're driving out of. If you're driving out of a station, you never see the teams, you never see the daytime stuff.
I can't see.
So the only daytime stuff that you know that exists are those local spot runs, which could be plentiful in certain markets and not at all in others. So he just, I assume, is driving out of a station where his only opportunity for good runs, good money, are those nighttime runs.
Pro, flexibility. You can drive teams, you can drive solo, you can do spot, you can do wild man, or you can be a contractor. I'll give you an example. A spot driver normally does drive during the daytime, and they will go to a distributor or a shipper receiver and pick up a truckload of whatever that product is. Let's say Chewy dog products. And then they will
Chewy's huge in FedEx.
And from there, the trailer will be downloaded and distributed to the other trucks going to different various locations. Now, a lot of guys, they'll do a spot run during the daytime and also do a night run. Or you can run Wildman.
Remember, those spots are typically 53-foot trailers or one pup. You're not taking doubles to those locations. So for a driver, you're not having to connect and disconnect an entire set every time. So for those doing spots, that is a benefit for running spots. Aside for the daytime runs, even if the money they're making is less.
Wildman is pretty much where you're not on dedicated freight.
Wildman, that's interesting. When we started using the phrase wild 16, 17, I've never heard it referred to as wild man.
I spoke like a wild man.
But thank you, smooth operator. I am going to use that, and I will try to give you credit whenever I do. But wild man is a very good way of running those spare miles, especially right now because there's not a lot of them. So if you're putting that truck in and trying to run wild, you are a wild man.
Con, pulling doubles. Now, pulling doubles is not that terrible, but it is more work than pulling the 53-footer. It takes more time and effort to connect, takes more time and effort to disconnect, and there are more things that can go wrong if you find yourself in a situation you can't back up. If the load is unbalanced, you can feel that all night when you're driving. It's a little more of a challenge when it's windy, raining, inclement weather. So just something to keep in mind if you think about coming to FedEx Ground.
Yes, FedEx Ground, we drive doubles, and there's not a lot of other doubles companies out there. It happened. XPO, I think CR England, you see those doubles. But when it comes to doubles, let's not compare driving doubles as a FedEx Ground driver to the other drivers that are grabbing 53s, the spot runs. Let's compare it to the rest of the industry. Using doubles allows FedEx, the system, to run very efficiently. He's coming out of, say, Ocala, and that freight's coming north out of Ocala to Atlanta. And now some of that freight needs to go to Atlanta, but the rest of the freight needs to go up to, say, Lehigh, Pennsylvania. So instead of having a 53 trailer that they get to Marietta, Atlanta, and they have to take some of the boxes off, put it on something else, and mix and match at the facility, you load one trailer that's going to Atlanta and you load one trailer to Lehigh. And they say, hey, this driver on this dedicated run, head up here, let's drop the stuff there. We'll have another driver grab that, probably a team that's going to run it up to Lehigh, and that's an easy way. Now, what that means is quickness, efficiency. God, I love it. Love the system because I've done trucking. I've had team drivers, 2 guys in a brand new truck that were supposed to get empty, drop their load off at a DC, a distribution center, and they get there Friday afternoon. The people who unload the truck are lumpers, but they typically don't work for the DC themselves, or the third party times. And maybe they don't have time or don't want to unload you, and nobody cares. There's nobody to talk to.
I don't care what you think.
So you say, hey, I got to get this trailer unloaded. And they don't unload the trailer, and it's Friday, but they don't open up again until Monday. So your team sits there all weekend long where they were supposed to get empty and grab another load that you already have booked to go to bring them back home or wherever it is they're going. That's the problem with trucking. It's just the communication, the not getting loaded or not getting unloaded. You don't deal with that with the FedEx. And he mentioned the empty miles, the deadhead miles. That's not something we deal with. But in trucking, you drop your load off somewhere, you might be driving hours, hundreds of miles to pick up that next load. Who pays for the fuel? Who pays for those drivers' miles in between there?
Him?
Well, you do. It's a negative cost. So the consistency that FedEx provides, you'll hear that come out of my mouth many times.
Reward points.
Reward points.
Whenever you fill up at a Love's, Pilot, Flying J, if you have a rewards card, you can get a lot of points. I know Love's.
Sorry, Smooth. Nope. Nope. Hell no.
You get more points than your average driver. At any given time, I have $300 or $400 worth of points on my Love's card, which means I never pay for snacks, drinks, Subway, whatever is at the Love's truck stop, minus McDonald's. McDonald's is not a part of the Love's program.
Smooth. All right. He posted this a year ago. Things have changed. Obviously, we all know. He's working for me. Smooth. Man, listen, I'm getting an REL fuel card. I need you to fuel up at the FedEx hub if there's fuel there, or you got to go to a Pilot's. you got to go to Air Pilots, right? Whatever the REL gets us that inexpensive fuel at, you got to go there. I'll buy you the drinks, man. I'll buy you the showers. I'll buy you the McDonald's, man. Every night, dude, the Big Mac, double cheeseburger, some chicken nuggets on me. But you got to go to the fuel that I'm getting a much better pricing on, because it's insane. The amount of money, the amount of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a fleet is not taking advantage of in savings. And that's direct savings. That's direct to bottom line. Lowering expenses, it just changes the landscape of the business. REL, those guys have done a wonderful job in helping us out. So hopefully everyone who's watching this, contractors, God, take advantage of that. Call REL immediately, get the REL fuel card. If you have any questions, reach out to us. I can connect you, walk you through why you have to do that. And drivers, understand the amount of money that a contractor will save that's going to cost you your points. They will be happy to increase your pay or give you some type of benefit to compensate you for losing out on your points. That's something that a year ago, we were just getting started with it. Now, a year later, major update.
Con, Groundhog Day. For me, it's not a problem. For a lot of guys, they don't like doing the same thing every day. If you don't like doing the same thing every day, then that could be a con for you. Especially if you're on dedicated freight, every night, you go somewhere and then you come back and then you repeat the process 5 or 6 days a week. If you don't like that, if that's not for you, then FedEx Ground might not be for you, or you can find, like I said, you can find a job inside of FedEx Ground being a wild man where you're not on dedicated freight. But the norm is that if you come to FedEx Ground, you're going to be on dedicated freight.
I've never found the driver that didn't love playing Groundhog's Day. Consistency, guaranteed money, being home the same time every day. I've been pushing that for 10 plus years to drivers, and never have I had one driver in the thousands of drivers that I've spoken to. Hey, I don't want to do the same thing every day. I want to go out there and see the world, see the open road. Haven't found it yet. Still looking for that romanticized notion of trucking and hitting the open road, because obviously as a contractor, I want somebody who wants to go out there and swallow up some miles and go wherever the freight is, but haven't found it yet.
Pro, light loads. The loads are very light.
Light loads, huge.
At FedEx Ground, anything over 20,000 pounds to me is considered heavy. I have had loads over 30,000 pounds, but that's very few and far between, usually during peak season, October to December. But most nights, I'm under 15,000 pounds. Anything over 20,000 pounds to me is pretty heavy.
That's huge. And I don't talk about it enough. The light loads, FedEx, the freight that you're hauling is very light on those trucks. You go pull oil in South Texas, your truck is hauling over 40,000 pounds. That is extremely heavy. It's a lot of wear and tear on that truck. So a truck's lifespan, it lasts a lot less. That engine, that transmission, you're putting more wear and tear on the truck. FedEx trucks will tend to last significantly longer because of the ability for these trucks. The parts don't wear as fast. Now, pre-FCAM, you had guys running trucks from the 90s and they're absolutely fine, and they still would be if it wasn't for that FCAM mandate that had come out. 10 years go by, there's still going to be people running 14, 15, 16 Cascadias that happen to have the FCAM in them, because you can get away with a 1.3 million mile truck overhauled as long as you have a really good maintenance system, especially on those like nighttime runs where they're only doing 300 miles a night and that truck sits at the station all day long. So you can have a mechanic come out. Hopefully it's a manic mechanic. That's hilarious. All right. That was really funny. Come out and check that truck daily. So the light loads is huge. This is a fantastic video. This dude, he gets it. Love talking to drivers who just get the system.
Biggest pet peeve or biggest con, my personal con with FedEx Ground is the tight schedule. Very tight schedule, very little room, margin for error. For example, Phoenix Springs, Florida to Jacksonville, Florida and back every night. It's only 570 miles round trip. They're supposed to have the load ready.
So he's running out of West Florida. I think it's Pensacola, the terminal. They're building a new one out there, but it's Pensacola over to Jacksonville. That's a good run, and back. And it's going to be tight. It's depending on how quick they turn him, whether he's grabbing empties coming back. Let's let him tell us.
And have the doors closed and sealed by 0230 Eastern time so that I can make it back to Definiak Springs no later than 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. But normally they don't close you out on time. And even if they do close you out at 2:30, from the time it takes from you to hook up to the trailers, do your paperwork, and get out the door, depending on how good you are, about 10 or 15 minutes. So by the time you hit the road, it's already 2:40 or 2:45, and that's just cut time. So by the time you hit the road, you have maybe about anywhere between a 15, 20, if you're lucky, a 30-minute window from the time that you leave the terminal to the time that they want you to be at the other terminal. And the trucks only go 65 miles an hour. So if you have to pull over and use a restroom, or if you happen to get sleepy or something happens or whatever, they'll start calling you. If you're not there on time, they'll start calling you or your contractor to see where you're at, okay? So that's something to take consideration. There's not a lot of margin for error.
Dude gets it.
FedEx ground.
Oh, I didn't mean to take over this. This is a fantastic video by itself. I just felt the commentary from a contractor's perspective could add some insight here, especially a year later. What he said was so important. You have his station, Pensacola, right? They kick him his loads. They're ready what, 9:30 or so? And he's got to get to Jacksonville, Florida. So he gets to Jacksonville and he has to do 30 minutes there. That's a rest break he has to take. And he can do that just walking around, connecting to his next set. He'll get his 30 minutes. Now he needs to be out of there by 2:15, I imagine, 2:30. What happens if there is a manager there that doesn't understand the hours of service or doesn't think about it, that says, hey, I got another 5,000 packages. I don't know how many packages in the trucks, but I got another set of packages that I can fit on this truck. I'm just going to push it. Hey man, don't sweat. Give me a couple minutes. Now it's 3:30. And he's, dude, what? We got to get out of there. But there's not that communication there. And these small stations, I don't know if Pensacola, where he came from, has a 3-4 a.m. guy, but typically the stations don't have that there. You can't call Pensacola and say, hey, Jacksonville, dude, close those damn trailers. I got to get this dude back. He's going to run out of hours. And even if he doesn't run out of hours, he's still going to be late, because at 6 a.m. when they come in to do that morning sort, and those packages have to get on the delivery trucks and get them to that local area, the truck's not going to be there. Smooth's not back in time because they held him up. That communication, that 2 to 4 o'clock communication, is such a major part of running a successful business. And you might not think as a contractor that it's your job to micromanage that issue, but damn, sometimes you just have to, because you can't expect those nighttime dispatchers, and in certain stations there's nobody there that's just, oh, you were late. Why were you late? They didn't close out the doors till 3:30. Dude, what the hell, you got to be there at 2:30? What was he supposed to do? Talk to a manager in Jacksonville and say, hey, you got to close my load. No, I got to get out of here. I'm going to run out of hours. These are going to be hot. I can only go 65 miles an hour. Such a big issue. And it's just one of those things that you have to be able to manage that. For me, I built a dispatch company because I wasn't going to be taking those calls, and you don't want to get a call from me at 3:30 in the morning. Take my contract if me, the version of me that is up at 3 o'clock in the morning, has to deal with this issue. So you need preparation. But such an amazing point, and I don't think we really understand what happens there, especially those of you who are running out of the small stations. Hub life's different. There's always dispatchers there. You might not be able to get them on the phone, but you can. And now for him, just because I know this situation very well, that Pensacola Panhandle station falls under 303 Ellenwood. I've been out of Ellenwood. I worked out of there. I've had great, phenomenal relationships that I made there. But if there's one complaint that most contractors have about Ellenwood, for those of you who might be watching this, what do you think about Ellenwood? Give me your thoughts. Yes, there's a lot of misguidance and a lack of empathy towards you and your drivers at those early morning times, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. I dealt with it for years. He can't call his hub up and say, hey man, can you call Jacksonville down and tell them to close the loads? That's not happening at all. Jacksonville, I don't know where they fall under. It's either Savannah or maybe it's Ocala. So Jacksonville, there might be people working 24 hours. I don't know. I take loads there, but I've never worked out of there. But that communication. I just went on a tangent, but that's an important point for anybody who's considered buying these nighttime runs out of the station. I love them. That's my go-to. If I see one of those for sale, I'm buying it. I want those runs because I've built a system that is capable of managing exactly what I just spoke about. But for anyone who's new or even drivers, understand when you're taking these runs, the nuances, he gets it. And it's nice to see a driver who understands this stuff.
What maybe some of your pros and cons are for driving FedEx Ground. Like I said, overall, absolutely love it. For my contractor, love work for him also. Honestly, I really have no complaints, but these are just some of the things that you might want to take into consideration if you're thinking about coming into FedEx Ground. Hopefully you gained value from this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button.
Follow him. Subscribe. Do it. Follow him.
So that way you know when I'm dropping a video. My next video is going to be about how to unhook doubles. So thank you guys very much for tuning in.
It is fantastic to see a driver who gets it, something that we don't often see, and it's not like we can't fit any driver who's safe and can show up on time into our network, but I love to see guys who get it, and I assume he has some type of leadership role for his company, but this is a dude that I'd be like, man, hopefully he might consider being a contractor one day because he gets it, and it's a rare thing to see contractors who understand the system as well as he does, and he's just picked it up going along. So fantastic video, everybody. I highly recommend watch his stuff, but this is the insight that we as contractors are looking for from the drivers. They're giving us all the information we could possibly need about what goes on the road, what's happening out there. Smooth, if you watch this, man, thank you very much. These are all phenomenal. I'm going to watch more of your shit, and I imagine we're going to get lots of insight. Thanks, everyone.